If you're lying in bed right now, maybe the room is dark except for the soft hum of something. An old fan, the quiet refrigerator down the hall, maybe even the fizz of a half-empty soda can on your nightstand. Imagine that gentle fizz stretching backward in time, all the way to the early 1900s. That sound, tiny bubbles rising through syrupy sweetness, was once the sound of progress. America was inventing itself again. There were new cities, new machines, and new ideas of happiness. And people were thirsty for energy, for optimism, for whatever magic could lift them above the ordinary. In that thirst, a man named Charles Lieper Grigg appeared, holding not a torch of fire, but a bottle of lemon-lime soda. It was 1929. The world was teetering on the edge of the Great Depression. But before the crash, before the panic, there was a moment, a brief, bubbling moment, when people believed that the right drink could fix almost anything. Grigg's drink sparkled like hope itself. He called it bib-label lithiated lemon-lime soda. Catchy, right? Well, maybe not. But it had something special. Lithium citrate, a mood stabilizer, the same kind of lithium still prescribed today for bipolar disorder. Back then, nobody thought of it as a drug. It was a perk, a tonic, a touch of calm in a noisy, restless world. People drank it with dinner. They gave it to their kids. It was sold not as medicine, but as something bright, clean, refreshing. In a country racing forward on caffeine and dreams, lithium seemed like a way to balance the nerves. They said it made you feel better all over. And maybe it did. Somewhere in a 1930s kitchen, a mother might have opened a glass bottle of that glowing green soda, poured it into small glasses for her children. The bubbles rose, soft and steady. No one worried about chemicals. No one read ingredient labels. They just trusted the fizz and the smiling ads that said, "Take the lift that refreshes." By the early 1930s, America was tired. The Great Depression had cracked open the bright shell of the Roaring Twenties, and what spilled out wasn't gold. It was dust and uncertainty. People lined up for bread. Radios whispered promises. Everyone wanted something, anything that felt a little lighter. And that's where the soda fountain came in. You could walk into a corner drugstore, push open a squeaky glass door, and be greeted by a sweet cloud of sugar and syrup. There'd be a man in a white apron polishing a metal counter, and behind him, glass jars filled with pastel candies. In a world that had lost its sparkle, the soda fountain was a tiny shrine of effervescence. It wasn't just about taste, it was about escape. A few cents could buy you a tall glass of something cold and sparkling, something that whispered of better days. And behind the counter, the bottles of lithiated lemon-lime soda stood in neat rows. The label promised refreshment and balance. A tiny bit of science, a dash of optimism, a clean taste that seemed to wash away worry. Even doctors recommended it. Newspapers printed little ads that said things like, "Lithiated lemon-lime for the ups and downs of everyday life." Nobody questioned the word lithiated. It sounded respectable, almost sophisticated, like something modern people should drink. In homes across America, parents poured it into small tumblers for their children. The clink of ice cubes, the pop of a bottle cap, the soft fizz rising up, it all became part of the rhythm of daily life. The children laughed more easily, perhaps. The grown-ups felt calmer, at least for a while. And maybe, without realizing it, the country was dosing itself into a gentler mood. Lithium, after all, does quiet the mind. But no one called it that. They called it 7-Up soon enough. The name changed in 1936. Charles Grigg simplified it, gave it a sleeker sound. Bib-label lithiated lemon-lime soda was gone. In its place, 7-Up. Clean, modern, almost mysterious. No one really knew what the 7 stood for. 7 flavors, 7 bubbles. Some said it was for lithium's atomic weight, which was close to 7. But maybe it was just a lucky number in unlucky times. And that, somehow, made sense to everyone. Because when the world feels unsteady, what could be more comforting than luck, bubbles, and a lemon-lime promise of peace? By the time the 1940s arrived, the name 7-Up was everywhere. It sparkled on billboards, winked from soda fountains, and fizzed softly inside kitchen glasses across the country. The war had begun overseas, and even though rationing and worry filled the news, people clung to small comforts, little rituals that reminded them life could still be sweet. One of those rituals was a chilled bottle of 7-Up. It came in green glass, the kind that caught the light just so, making the liquid inside seem to glow faintly like morning dew. You could hold the cold bottle in your hand, feel the condensation bead and run down your fingers, and believe, even for a few moments, that everything was going to be all right. The ads called it the Fresh Up drink. They showed families gathered around picnic blankets, soldiers smiling in uniform, mothers serving tall glasses of lemon lime to children with neat haircuts and clean faces. Everyone was calm. Everyone was happy. The secret ingredient, of course, was lithium. But that wasn't the headline. Lithium wasn't dangerous, not yet. It was invisible. It just hummed quietly in the background of the American bloodstream, evening out moods, softening tempers. Nobody thought twice about it. People didn't think of chemicals, they thought of trust. 7-Up was the drink of confidence. Crisp, clear, and reliable. It was the taste of something pure in an uncertain world. And it wasn't just for kids. Housewives poured it into highball glasses with a slice of lemon, maybe a shot of gin on the sly. Soda jerks mixed it with ice cream to make lemon-lime floats that sparkled like captured laughter. Soldiers home on leave drank it with girlfriends in diners where jukeboxes played soft swing music. That's what made it powerful, not the lithium, but the dream behind it. The dream that you could buy happiness in a bottle, that a drink could balance your nerves and brighten your day. And in those dimly lit kitchens and corner cafes, the sound of a bottle cap popping off was the sound of optimism itself. A soft hiss that said, "Relax, everything's fine now." Nobody questioned the chemistry. Nobody needed to. By the late 1940s, the war was over. America was stretching awake like a giant after a long, uneasy nap. The soldiers were home. Babies were being born in neat suburban houses that all looked almost the same. There were new cars, new televisions, and a soft hum of hope running under everything, like static you could almost hear. And everywhere you went, people were drinking 7-Up. It had quietly become part of American life, like cornflakes at breakfast or jingles on the radio. In kitchen cupboards and corner stores, green bottles stood ready, fizzy symbols of comfort and calm. You could see it in old photographs. A child sitting on the porch steps, straw in hand, the bottle taller than their wrist. Or a father mowing the lawn with a shirt open and a bottle of 7-Up waiting on the porch rail. It was a domestic ritual, as ordinary as breathing. The ads leaned into that ordinariness. They said things like, "You like it, it likes you." And "Fresh up with 7-Up, the family drink." The phrase family drink meant something then. It meant it was safe, friendly, even wholesome. And no one asked what lithiated used to mean. That word had quietly disappeared from the label in 1948, but the lithium hadn't. Not yet. For a while, the country just kept sipping. It was a kind of national exhale, a sparkling sigh in glass form. Imagine the sound of that era. The distant hum of a refrigerator, the tick of a wall clock, the soft fizz of soda poured into a cup. Families gathered in living rooms, the glow of black and white television flickering across faces. Commercials promised better living through chemistry, through convenience, through bubbles. It wasn't malicious. It was just hopeful. People wanted to believe in things that made life gentler, simpler, more modern. And maybe, just maybe, the lithium helped keep that illusion intact. A nation quietly soothed one fizzy sip at a time. Of course, not everyone was content. Scientists were beginning to whisper, doctors to question, but those voices were quiet, and the sound of fizzing happiness was much louder. For now, America was sparkling. The people were calm. The glasses were full. And the bubbles just kept rising. By the early 1950s, something subtle began to change. It didn't happen with headlines or protests. There were no scandals, no great outcry, just a soft turning of the national tide. The way an ocean changes direction, so gently that you only notice once the current is already pulling another way. Somewhere in a quiet laboratory, a chemist frowned over a report. In another town, a doctor noticed something curious about a few of his patients. They seemed too calm, too subdued. The mood was changing, both scientifically and socially. The same chemical that had made 7-Up so smooth and soothing was being studied more closely now. Scientists realized that lithium citrate wasn't just a tonic. It was a psychiatric medicine, a powerful mood stabilizer that worked deep in the brain. And while a little might relax the nerves, too much could do the opposite. It could unbalance things, slow the heart, weigh down the spirit. For years, nobody had thought much about it. Lithium was gentle, natural even, found in springs and minerals. But as medicine evolved, the country grew more cautious about what went into the body, especially the bodies of children. So, quietly, the formula changed. In 1948, 7-Up removed lithium citrate from its ingredients. No press release, no dramatic farewell, just a quiet revision, a new recipe, a different kind of fresh up. The world barely noticed. The bottles looked the same, the ads still smiled, the fizz still sparkled. If you opened one in your kitchen that year, it would still hiss and foam and taste like sweet lemon-lime sunlight. You'd never guess anything had changed. But the magic had gone. The calm that once drifted through American households began to fade, replaced by a sharper kind of energy, the caffeine era, the age of cola wars and restless ambition. The gentle hush of lithium gave way to the buzz of sugar and caffeine, and people didn't slow down anymore. They sped up. It wasn't necessarily better or worse, just different. The world had turned another page, and the drink that once soothed a nation became just another soda on the shelf. Still, in some small way, the ghost of that old formula lingered. In the culture, in the nostalgia, in the quiet memory of a time when people truly believed that peace of mind could come from a glass bottle with bubbles inside. By the early 1950s, something subtle began to change. It didn't happen with headlines or protests. There were no scandals, no great outcry, just a soft turning of the national tide. The way an ocean changes direction, so gently that you only notice once the current is already pulling another way. Somewhere in a quiet laboratory, a chemist frowned over a report. In another town, a doctor noticed something curious about a few of his patients. They seemed too calm, too subdued. The mood was changing, both scientifically and socially. The same chemical that had made 7-Up so smooth and soothing was being studied more closely now. Scientists realized that lithium citrate wasn't just a tonic. It was a psychiatric medicine, a powerful mood stabilizer that worked deep in the brain. And while a little might relax the nerves, too much could do the opposite. It could unbalance things, slow the heart, weigh down the spirit. For years, nobody had thought much about it. Lithium was gentle, natural even, found in springs and minerals. But as medicine evolved, the country grew more cautious about what went into the body, especially the bodies of children. So, quietly, the formula changed. In 1948, 7-Up removed lithium citrate from its ingredients. No press release, no dramatic farewell, just a quiet revision, a new recipe, a different kind of fresh up. The world barely noticed. The bottles looked the same, the ads still smiled, the fizz still sparkled. If you opened one in your kitchen that year, it would still hiss and foam and taste like sweet lemon-lime sunlight. You'd never guess anything had changed. But the magic had gone. The calm that once drifted through American households began to fade, replaced by a sharper kind of energy, the caffeine era, the age of cola wars and restless ambition. The gentle hush of lithium gave way to the buzz of sugar and caffeine, and people didn't slow down anymore. They sped up. It wasn't necessarily better or worse, just different. The world had turned another page, and the drink that once soothed a nation became just another soda on the shelf. Still, in some small way, the ghost of that old formula lingered. In the culture, in the nostalgia, in the quiet memory of a time when people truly believed that peace of mind could come from a glass bottle with bubbles inside.
The 1950s rolled in like a dream set to the rhythm of a jukebox. The war was long over, the suburbs were blooming, and everyone seemed to be in motion. Cars, families, refrigerators, television screens, all humming with the same electric promise of progress. And though no one said it aloud, something had shifted in the nation's pulse. The calm had fizzled out. With lithium gone from its formula, 7-Up still sparkled, still shone in those bright green bottles, but the drink had changed, and so had America. The taste was a little sharper now, a little more sugary. It wasn't a quiet, balancing sort of happiness anymore. It was a bright, quick kind, the kind that made you want to move. Everywhere, advertisements promised energy. There were slogans about pep, zest, vitality. Coca-Cola had its confident fizz. Pepsi sang about youth, and 7-Up, the gentle, lithiated drink of calm, had to find a new voice in this faster world. It became the drink of cheerful simplicity. No caffeine, no bitterness, no heavy aftertaste, just clean refreshment. The uncola, they would later call it. But beneath that marketing polish, there was something a little nostalgic, a little wistful, as if the drink itself remembered what it used to be. Meanwhile, the American dream was speeding up. Families bought cars that looked like rockets, televisions that glowed like windows to the future. Housewives filled their kitchens with gadgets that promised more free time, though somehow everyone still felt busier. Children grew up on breakfast cereals with cartoon mascots and sodas sweet enough to make the air hum. They didn't know that just a few years earlier, those same bubbles carried a whisper of lithium's strange calm. Now it was all sugar and light, neon signs and chrome diners. The sound of progress was louder, the clatter of dishes, the rumble of new highways, the hiss of a soda bottle opened with a snap instead of a sigh. And yet, in the middle of all that brightness, people still missed something they couldn't name. A softness, a slowness, the steady rhythm that lithium once lent to the collective heartbeat. But America wasn't built to slow down anymore. The nation that had once fizzed itself happy now raced itself awake. And in that speeding world, 7-Up remained a relic of quiet happiness, a simple green reminder of a time when calm came in bottles and no one thought twice about it. By the time the 1960s dawned, America had become fluent in the language of selling joy. It wasn't enough to be happy anymore. You had to look happy, sound happy, and ideally, be holding something branded while doing it. Television commercials shimmered with smiles that never quite looked real. Men in tidy suits, women in crisp dresses, children in pressed clothes, all perfectly staged in kitchens that gleamed like laboratories. Every bottle cap popped in rhythm with a jingle. Every fizz of soda came with a promise. And 7-Up was still there, quietly adapting to the new rhythm. No more lithium, no more mystery chemistry. Just bubbles, sugar, and a dream of uncomplicated refreshment. Its slogan was simple. You like it, it likes you. That was the secret spell of post-war marketing. Not just telling people what a product did, but what it felt like. You didn't drink soda because you were thirsty. You drank it because it made you part of something, a moment, a picture, an ideal. And 7-Up sold innocence. While other sodas leaned into energy and youth rebellion, 7-Up stayed gentle. Lemon-lime purity, a family drink. The soft drink for the soft moments. Sunday picnics, school lunches, backyard laughter. In the glossy pages of magazines, bottles of 7-Up rested beside sandwiches and apple slices, a picture of peace, so convincing it almost hummed. The copywriters understood something subtle. America was restless again, spinning faster every year, and what people craved most wasn't excitement, it was calm. That's the irony, of course. The drink that once literally contained calm was now selling a feeling of calm without the chemical help. And people still believed in it. Because advertising in that era wasn't just about products, it was about longing. The world outside was changing. Civil rights marches, rock and roll, television violence, space races. Inside, people wanted to hold on to something simple, something untouched by all that noise. So they turned the cap, heard the familiar hiss, and let the bubbles rise. It didn't matter that the lithium was gone. The memory of calm was still there, wrapped up in the lemon-lime light of nostalgia. Somewhere in an air-conditioned living room, a young couple might have clinked their glasses of 7-Up together, smiling at the TV glow, believing for a few quiet minutes that this soft, fizzing peace was what happiness tasted like. By the time the 1970s arrived, the mood of America had shifted again. The war in Vietnam had carved new lines in the collective face of the nation. The tidy world of the 1950s was gone. Its clean lawns and polite smiles replaced by long hair, protest signs, denim, and the sound of electric guitars. It was the era of questions, of letting go, of reinvention. And somewhere in the middle of all that change, 7-Up quietly rebranded itself again. No longer the family drink of calm kitchens, but the drink of the Uncola. The Uncola campaign was brilliant and strange. It didn't just sell soda, it sold difference. While Coca-Cola and Pepsi battled over who owned the taste of tradition, 7-Up declared itself free from all that noise. "We're not cola," the ad said. "We're Uncola." It was bold, playful, a little rebellious, but still smiling. The posters were psychedelic swirls of citrus and color. Afros and bell-bottoms, laughter and sunlight, hands holding clear glasses filled with bubbles that seemed to catch the very light of the era. 7-Up was now the drink of freshness, of clarity, of being yourself. And that was funny, in a quiet historical way. Because decades earlier, the same drink had promised calm through chemistry, a quieting of the mind. Now it promised the opposite, liberation through clarity, the sparkle of natural simplicity. People didn't know, of course, that natural simplicity used to mean lithium citrate. But that didn't matter. History has a way of cleaning its labels. By then, 7-Up had become almost mythic. The soda that refused to belong to either side. Not Coca-Cola's syrupy nostalgia, not Pepsi's poppy youth rebellion. Just the uncola, clear, bright, lemon-lime truth. It fit the 1970s perfectly, a time when everyone wanted to be different but still fit in, to be free but still sweet. The fizz rose higher, the ads got louder, and the drink that once calmed the nerves was now a symbol of sparkle, individuality, and easy cool. Somewhere, Charles Leiper Grigg, the man who once mixed lithium with lemon syrup in his St. Louis lab, might have smiled at the irony. His humble tonic had survived wars, depressions, and decades of change. It had gone from medicine to miracle, to marketing. The bubbles had outlasted the chemistry, and America, restless and shimmering, still drank the dream. By the 1980s and 1990s, 7-Up had become something else entirely. A classic, a familiar green bottle on supermarket shelves. Kids grew up drinking it. Teenagers sipped it in diners. And adults remembered it from childhood kitchens, from quiet Sunday afternoons when the world felt smaller and slower. The lithium was long gone. The calm that had once floated through the nation in tiny doses was now only a memory, a story whispered to sleep-deprived historians. But the drink itself carried nostalgia like bubbles carry fizz. Every pop of a cap, every gentle hiss of soda poured over ice reminded people of kitchens that smelled of lemon and sugar, of Sunday drives, of afternoon cartoons. And nostalgia, in its own way, is a kind of medicine. It doesn't stabilize moods chemically. It works on the imagination, on memory, on the gentle, quiet parts of the brain that still remember being safe, cared for, and just slightly fizzy. Somewhere, a parent might pour a glass for a child, just as their own parent had decades ago. The child might sip slowly, fascinated by the bubbles, unaware of the strange history they carry. And the parent smiles quietly, knowing a little piece of the past is floating up in that glass. Not as lithium, not as medicine, but as memory, warmth, and sweetness. The world outside had changed. Faster cars, louder streets, endless television channels, computers humming softly in every room. But inside kitchens, in quiet moments between breakfast and bedtime, 7-Up still offered a tiny pause, a fizzing sigh of something familiar, something soft, something human. And perhaps that was enough. For even without the lithium, the drink had kept its gentle magic in a new form, a whisper of calm in a world that refused to slow down. And so, here we are, at the edge of our story, in a quiet place where bubbles rise and fade, and the world feels just a little softer. Once upon a time, in kitchens and corner stores, in homes stretching across a restless, growing nation, a simple soda carried a strange kind of magic. Lithium in lemon lime had once promised calm to a country speeding toward modernity, a gentle hush in the noise of daily life. Now, decades later, the lithium is gone. The bottles have changed, the labels have changed, the ads have changed. But the memory remains, subtle, almost invisible, like the last fizz left clinging to the sides of a glass. The legacy of that soda is not in its chemistry, but in the feeling it left behind. It reminds us that happiness can be simple, that calm can arrive in small, sparkling moments, that even a nation racing forward can pause, if only to sip a drink and watch the bubbles climb. Imagine a child holding a glass now, centuries of fizz behind them in spirit, the soft hissing as the liquid meets ice, the tiny bubbles catching the light, and for just a moment, they feel the world slow. That is the echo of the lemon-lime calm. The story is over now, but the memory lingers. You may close your eyes and feel it too, the gentle rise of bubbles, the quiet hush of a nation soothed in small, fizzy doses. And as you drift off, remember, the world can always use a little more calm, a little more sweetness, a little soft, sparkling pause. Good night.